there wearing his Dallas Mavericks Luka Doncic jersey. I like that one. I like the gold one that you have better. So you have to wear that in future, and people can cast a vote on which one they like better. Lean back a little. That's the old school. Lean back so people can see it a little bit, Carson. That's the old school. Back when I was a kid, that's what the Mavericks unis looked like. So they got the Mavs kind of going with the throwback a little bit. It's a good look. Luka and the Mavs, they're getting hot. So we'll talk about them in a little bit. Final Four is today as we tape this on Saturday morning. Ole Miss baseball in about 50 minutes. We'll have coverage of that. I'm going out to football practice in a little bit, so we'll have coverage of that as well. I don't know if it's even coverage, if you could even call it that, because it's open to you guys. I get the same amount of access you get. We don't talk to anybody afterwards. So I'll give you some football observations. I always tell people I don't feel like I'm qualified really to be giving you like some hardcore football breakdown of here's what I saw, because I'm in journalism because I can write and communicate. I'm not in journalism because I'm an X and O football star. I'm not. So anyway, we'll get to all that in a little bit. First, I want to tell you this show is brought to you by Lammons Fine Jewelry in Oxford. Lammons is located – I need to pull that up on the screen. I was updating so many things, Carson, that I forgot to – there it goes. Here we go. Lammons is located at 1126 North Lamar Boulevard in Oxford. They've been serving the Oxford area for 73 years. I can't speak to the whole 73 years, but I can speak to the last 13 when we've been doing business with them, and they're fantastic. They've got engagement rings, wedding rings, fine jewelry, watches, pearls, fashion jewelry, children's jewelry, collectibles, and more. They're the gold standard in fine jewelry. Like I said, we've been doing business with them for years, whether it was anniversary gifts or birthday gifts or Christmas gifts. I told you back in the, I guess, late in the fall, around Christmas time, we took some old jewelry, some of my wife's, I guess, grandmothers or great-grandmothers or maybe both jewelry to Lammons, had it refurbished into jewelry that Carson's sisters are wearing now. It's great. They did a fantastic job with it. Great customer service. They're the fine gold standard in fine jewelry. So check them out at lammonsfinejewelry.com or call them at 662-234-2777. Carson and I are in the Clark Ford studios. Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900. Call that number. Ask for our friend Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. Right to the bottom line. No hassle. No haggle. Instead, you get your quote, and the rest is up to you. You can shop it around, of course. That's your prerogative. Or you can do what I've done, what I recommend you do, and that's hop into a Clark Ford today. You'll love the service. You'll love the product. You'll really love the service. Just yesterday, they came and got my truck, took it to Amory, changed the oil. I was a little concerned about some of my brakes. They looked at my brakes. They said, nope, you got about 2 more oil changes before you got to change your brake pads. They're coming to get Laura's Explorer on Wednesday to get her serviced before she goes to Fayetteville soon for a Mom's Day Kyo thing. And so I don't know that every car dealer in the world does that for you. Clark Ford does. They're fantastic. 662-257-1900. Carson, how are you?
Good. I don't know. Haven't done anything. Guess I'm fine.
Finished up your OPC basketball season. You guys finished with some wins. I know you lost the last game, but you got
2 wins, like 6 losses. I don't know.
Y'all played tons of close games. Y'all were a terrible rebounding team, and that's what killed you. Y'all were just awful on the glass.
That last game, I swear, I think I was hurt or something. So I could not jump or run quick or anything. I mean, like at that practice that night, it was like something in like, I guess like my hamstring or something.
Yeah. I don't know. Are you stretching?
I mean, I was stretching. I don't know.
I don't know. Beats me. You're in a growth spurt. Getting tall. Maybe everything's just weird right now. All right, so it's Saturday. The Final Four is today. I'll pull up the Final Four. I made a little graphic here, Carson. People, I'm sure they're going to love it. Let's see if I can find it. There it is. So the Final Four is tonight. You'll miss the first game because you've got a basketball practice. It's Houston, the 2 seed, versus the 1 seed Baylor. It's at 4:14 p.m. And then the late game tonight, 11th seeded UCLA and number 1 seed Gonzaga at 7:34. Both games at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. You can see the games on CBS. We watched Baylor the other night because Baylor knocked out Arkansas in a game where Campbell was at Bud Walton Arena. Everybody was cheering for the Hogs. Scoot in close. There you go.
That was a really close game, though.
Arkansas actually played well. Baylor just played better. Baylor's a really good team, and when Baylor plays like that, look out. And they were terrific the other night. They, to me, I watched Houston. I've watched Houston a couple of times. Houston's good, but Houston's a lot like Arkansas in that the only way they're going to beat Baylor today is if Baylor beats themselves while they play well on the floor. An Arkansas-Houston game would have been absolutely nip and tuck. Baylor's better than Arkansas, yeah, sure, but Baylor's better than Houston. Be an interesting game. Kelvin Sampson, longtime coach, finally took a team to the Final Four, and it's Houston. Who would have ever imagined? And then the second game tonight, Gonzaga, UCLA. UCLA was in the play-in game at the beginning of the tournament. UCLA now in the Final Four. They knocked off Alabama. They knocked off Michigan. Now they're asked to knock off the top seed in the tournament, Gonzaga.
I'd be shocked. I mean, they could do it, but that'd be crazy.
You've watched a lot of the tournament. Have you liked it? It's probably the most tournament you've ever watched because you usually don't watch a lot of college basketball. You've watched a lot of this tournament. What have you thought?
I just like upsets. Upsets are the fun thing. I mean.
So in our house, you guys will get a kick out of this. In our house, it was Arkansas and Oral Roberts were playing in the Sweet 16. So for the people that don't know, Carson's big sister Campbell is a sophomore at the University of Arkansas. His other sister, Caroline, is going to be a freshman at the University of Arkansas in the fall. And as that game got going, Campbell, we have a family text, like most families, and Campbell was in Fayetteville, and she was getting nervous about Oral Roberts hanging on to a lead. She's like, what is the deal? What's going on? And Caroline was starting to get into it. She was cheering for the Hogs. And so Laura and I were cheering for Arkansas because, you know, I mean, our kids go there, so we were cheering for them. And Carson is cheering for Oral Roberts. And as that game goes on, things got a little testy between he and Caroline. Caroline said, what are you doing? Why are you cheering for them? And Carson said, I can cheer for whoever I want to cheer for. And got a little testy. Oral Roberts had a look at the end. I mean, an open three was a really well-drawn-up play.
I wanted that to go in so bad.
Well, it rimmed out.
I know Campbell would have probably cried, but
yeah, whew.
I would have laughed.
You were cheering for the upset. Yeah. So that's the Final Four. I know you've watched a lot of Gonzaga because you're interested in the lottery. Jalen Suggs has probably seen his stock go up.
I'd love to get him. He looked so good in that game against. Am I not speaking into it?
Yeah, it's better. Just right into it. When you go from the side, it kind of the voice
cuts
carries.
Out. Yeah. I mean, that game against who'd they play? Last game.
Oh, who did they play last game? I'll pull it up. Their road to
was it? No. It was.
Here, I'll pull it up. Gonzaga's road to the Final Four.
Can't think of it, but.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up because I'm pulling up their schedule. So Gonzaga beat USC. They beat. They beat Mobley, his team. They beat USC by 19. So Gonzaga so far in the tournament has beaten Norfolk State, the 16, by 43. They beat Oklahoma, the 8, by 16. They beat Creighton, the 5, by 18, and they beat USC, the 6, in the Elite 8 by 19. They've dominated the tournament in much the way that everyone thought they would dominate the tournament. They have dominated the tournament.
Because they've got Suggs. They've got that.
So Suggs is a lottery pick.
Yeah, they've got that other white dude.
Most people think
24, maybe.
Yeah, Corey Kispert, number 24. Most people think he's a lottery pick, somewhere around 10, 11 in the draft. They've got Drew Timme, the big forward, who looks a lot like Kispert.
He's like late first-round pick.
A lot of people talk about him being a late first-round pick.
He is. I wouldn't mind getting him, though, because he actually looked really good in that game. I mean, he had like 10 – no, he had like 18 points that game, three steals, something like that.
Here's what else they have. Here's what else they have on that team. They've got Andrew Nembhard, for people who are SEC people, the Florida transfer, who would have been the best player on Florida's team after the injury that with Keontae Johnson. Nembhard would have been Florida's go-to guy. He's the 4th or 5th option on Gonzaga. They've just got a really talented team.
So that's what, 3 or 4 first-round picks on one team?
Well, it's I don't think Nembhard as of this moment is a first-round pick, but Nembhard is a guy that's going to play professionally. He'll have an opportunity probably to play in the NBA. But he's a really good college player. I mean, period. Very, very good college player. They're just really good. I love Suggs. I know you do too. I watch Suggs play, and 6'4", 205, he is your typical NBA guard today because he can play the 1, he can play the 2. I think he's a point guard, but he's versatile enough to play off the ball. He was an elite high school quarterback in Minnesota from St. Paul. He's just 19. It's an interesting story here I'm pulling up. Nick Saban, the Alabama coach, football coach, of course, recruited him as a football player. He said, I vaguely do recall him as a player. He was a really good player. He's a really good basketball player, too, so I can't argue with anybody about the choice that he made in terms of, what he's known, his known future and how he's trying to do, build a career in athletics. He was a fine young man. He was a good leader, very talented player, and I enjoy watching him play. He always liked playing guys you think you know a little bit, so I really enjoyed watching them play, and those guys have a good team, no doubt. Ryan Day, the Ohio State coach, talked about him, said we offered him and in the end just didn't feel like he was going to throw it well enough to come in and play right away. I felt like if he spent 100% of his time on football, he had a chance to develop as a quarterback. He was just raw. Suggs clearly made the best decision for him. I've pulled up some NBA mock drafts for 2021. Let's see what the latest is. Got one here from, we'll use Bleacher Report. Why not? They're all about the same at this point. So here's what's interesting. You've watched a lot of the tournaments. We'll talk about this for a minute. They've got Minnesota picking number 1, going with Cade Cunningham. You watched Cunningham play. Did the tournament turn you off at all?
I mean, no, because no offense to his team. His team is great. I mean, they're all probably pretty good players. But, I mean, that team wasn't a great NCAA team. Other than Cade, if they didn't have Cade on that roster, they would not be good. And they wouldn't have been in the tournament.
They've got Houston going second with Evan Mobley, the center from USC. And I'm going to be honest with you. I know we do a lot of, who do we want the Thunder to take? When you and I are riding around in the car and we're talking about, this is the guy that I want the Thunder to take. I don't think he's going to fall to them because I don't know if they're going to pick high enough. But if you told me that the Thunder landed the 2nd or 3rd pick in the draft, this is the guy I'm in favor of. 7 feet tall, young. He reminds me of some really young NBA guys. Kevin Garnett, probably don't completely remember him. He was a little before your
I've seen him
time.
a little bit, yeah.
Garnett was a dog.
Yeah.
And this guy reminds me of him, very polished. They've got Suggs going third, the Gonzaga guard that we're talking about, going third to Detroit in this.
That's the same top three I have. I have Cade, Mobley, and Suggs.
Okay. They've got Jalen Green of Orlando going fourth. He's playing in the G League. His G League teammate, Jonathan Kuminga, they have him going fifth. Keon Johnson, the guard from Tennessee, really came on strong at the end of the season for the Vols. They have him going sixth. Shows you how much they just value youth. Scotty Barnes, the freshman forward from Florida State, going seventh. In this draft, they've got Jalen Johnson, the freshman forward from Duke, going eighth. He opted out near the end of the season and got a lot of criticism.
Where do they have the Thunder in that draft?
So they have the Thunder going ninth. I'm curious to get your thoughts here because you watched him some in some of these games that we just talked about. They've got the Thunder going ninth, taking Moses Moody, the freshman guard / forward from Arkansas, who was not ready for the stage that he was in the other night. But it's a reminder that the NBA doesn't really care about that. Here's an example. He got outshined the other night by Davion Mitchell from Baylor, who plays tonight. I love Mitchell, but Mitchell's
he was like the defensive player of the year,
yep,
right?
But Mitchell's 2 years older than these list of guys we just named: Suggs, Moody, Barnes,
all of them.
Yeah, he's 2 years older than those guys. So the NBA looks at this and goes, "Do we want the more proven commodity, or do we want the younger guy that we can develop?" And I think it's been proven right now. The NBA's like, "I want the younger guy we can develop." Now, does that mean you're getting the better player? This is where it's real interesting. If you make evaluation mistakes, right, you end up sticking where you are, the top of the draft, repeating the cycle, like the Timberwolves, over and over and over. They're just right there. You end up later in the draft, you get a little more seasoned player who comes in, fits into your rotation, and helps your team get better. So they got Davion Mitchell going 10. The late lottery, they've got Franz Wagner from Michigan, who I really liked his game. I don't know how much you watched of him in the tournament.
Saw him that last game.
Really liked him a lot. They've got Kai Jones, the sophomore center from Texas, going 12. They have Corey Kispert, who we just talked about, the Gonzaga small forward. They have him going 13. Zaire Williams, the freshman forward from Stanford, going 14. They've got Josh Giddey, who's I don't know who he is. I think he's a G League guy, going 15. James Bouknight, the sophomore guard from Connecticut, going 16.
His stock dropped.
Bouknight?
Yeah.
A little bit.
I feel like I remember you saying on like either the last one or the second to last one we did, you said that's where the Thunder were getting.
So they've got the Thunder picking again 17. This is the Heat's pick. They have them taking Alperen Sengun, who's a center from Besiktas. I don't know anything about him. Turkish BSL, whatever that is. Josh Christopher from Arizona State going 18. Isaiah Jackson, the center freshman from Kentucky, going 19. Usman Garuba from Real Madrid going 20 to the Spurs. That sounds like a Spurs type of pick. They've got the Knicks taking Jared Butler out of Baylor. Houston taking Cameron Thomas, the freshman guard from LSU. Denver taking Trey Mann, the freshman, sophomore guard from Florida. Sharif Cooper, the Auburn guard, who I loved, opted out. I think he made a mistake. I would have stayed. And moved my draft stock even more. But they've got Houston taking Sharif Cooper at 24. They've got Tennessee freshman guard Jaden Springer going 25 to the Lakers. Chris Duarte, the senior guard from Oregon, going 26 to the Clips. They've got Marcus Bagley, the Arizona State freshman, going 27 to Philadelphia. They've got Phoenix taking Illinois guard Ayo Dosunmu. They've got Brooklyn taking Aaron Henry, the junior forward out of Michigan State. And they've got the Jazz picking 30th, taking Greg Brown, the freshman forward from Texas. So some guys to watch for tonight. You get to watch Mitchell. You get to watch Kispert. You get to watch Suggs. Should be a lot of fun. I think we're going to get a Baylor-Gonzaga final.
Yeah, I think that's how it was expected originally.
They're the two best teams, and that's the game you'd like to see. It would be a really fun game to watch.
And that's the thing. If you auto-filled your bracket, you would have had the championship correct. I mean, I'm going to assume that's how it's going to go.
Are you cheering for the upset, or do you want to see that game on Monday?
I mean, it'd be cool to see an upset if it were like both teams getting out. Like, that'd be kind of cool to see, I guess, Houston against UCLA.
Yeah.
But if Gonzaga wins, I'd rather see Baylor win that game.
All right, so we got a question in the thread from Will Clements, so we'll use this as a transition to the pro game. I'm gonna pull up. He's asking a Western Conference question, so we'll start with the Western Conference. The Western Conference standings right now, Utah is the one that continue to be the one. Utah is 37-11. I don't think most people would have guessed who would be the 2 seed, 3 games behind Utah. Right now, it's the Phoenix Suns after beating the Thunder last night.
I wasn't shocked by that, though.
34-14.
I had that feeling they were going to be a really good team.
Clippers, the 3, they're 32-18. The Lakers, a half game back of the Clippers. They're the 4.
They're falling off.
Denver, just 1.5 back, just a half game back of the Lakers. They're the 5. Portland, closing strong. They're 29-19. Dallas is hot now. Dallas is the 7, 26-21. San Antonio is the 8. They're a game ahead of Memphis, who right now would be the 9. And then there start to be a fall. Golden State, now 3 games under 500. They're 23-26. Sacramento is a game back of them at 22-27. New Orleans a half game back of Sacramento at 21-27. Oklahoma City now 20-28. Houston 13-35. And Minnesota a game and a half back of Houston. They're 12-37. So Will's question is, this isn't related to the draft, but I'm intrigued about the Clippers. I can't tell with them. I don't know if I trust them to win the West. The coaching staff is concerning to me. All right. So he says that. The Clippers right now, the 3 seed, just a half game ahead of the Lakers, who are the 4. They are 3 full games back of Phoenix. As we get kind of starting to get late in the year. If the season started today, the Clippers would play Portland in the first round. Here's my thing.
Against Dame.
PG versus Dame. Yeah, God, Dame would come out with his hair on fire.
I love Dame. I know he screwed us in that series against
he just beat us.
Yeah. But still, he's one guy I've had a lot of respect for.
Oh, he's a terrific player.
He's a fun player to watch, too.
They're a good team. When you watch the Clippers, do you see a title team?
I don't. I mean, they haven't been to the... I don't think they've been to the Western Conference Finals ever.
Pulling up their stats right now because I'm curious. I watch them, like their schedule coming up. They play the Lakers tomorrow. They got a Trailblazers. They got the Suns. This is gonna be next time we get together. We'll talk about the Clippers because they've got a pretty big week ahead of them right now. They made a deal at the deadline. They added Rajon Rondo.
Lou Williams. He's going.
They moved Lou Williams. I can't believe I'm saying this right now because I didn't think this for the longest time. For the longest time, I thought Phoenix would fade. Phoenix is not fading. If anything, Phoenix is playing better and better and better. They've got this young team who added one of the best veterans that you can add to a team. You saw what Chris Paul did for Oklahoma City a year ago, where he served as this guiding light for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, for Dennis Schroeder, for these young players. He's gone to a better team in Phoenix. They're really good, Carson. I mean, Devin Booker's a star. DeAndre Ayton's a star. I tell you who I love on this team, and I don't know that I'd love him on just any team, but I love him on this team, is Mikal Bridges, the shooting guard.
Yeah.
Really knocks the three down. He gets open shots. He can kind of play the three, can play the two. They've got Jay Crowder, who's playing his role, Dario Saric. This is a good team. I think the Suns are more of a title contender. When I say title, I mean Western Conference title. I think the Suns are more of a title contender today than the Clippers, and I'm not basing that on record. I'm basing that on the way they play.
No, I agree. I mean, you've seen DeAndre Ayton get better, Devin Booker get better. You have, especially if he gets a ring. Well, no, not even if he gets a ring. I mean, he's guaranteed to be like a top 10 point guard of all time right now, in my opinion.
Oh, Chris Paul?
I feel like he would definitely be there.
No doubt.
If he could get a ring, I mean, he could maybe be considered top 5. Maybe.
I mean, pure point guards distributing the basketball. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
One of the best of all time. Yeah.
I mean,
and you add him to a team, and there you go. I mean, you saw what he did with the Thunder. They were predicted to be one of the worst teams in the West, and they went from one of the worst teams in the West to the 6th seed that came like this close to beating the Rockets.
Well, here's what they're getting. They're getting a lot of balance. So you get Chris Paul, who's giving you 16 points a night. You're getting Dario Saric. I'm just kind of looking at their roster right now. It's getting 10.4 a night off the bench. You got guys like Abdel Nader giving you 6 points, almost 7 points a game. Kaminsky's giving you almost 7 points a game. Cameron Johnson giving you almost 10 points a game. Jay Crowder's giving you 10.2 a game. I told you about Bridges, 13.3 points a game. Devin Booker's a superstar, 25.6 points a game. But he's not. Booker's shooting 50% from the floor, 35.5 from three, 85.4 from the line. Bridges is shooting 52.9 from the floor, more than 40 from three, and 82% from the free throw line. Then you get DeAndre Ayton, who's giving you 14.5 points and almost 11 boards a game. This is a balanced basketball team with a veteran point guard and one of the best coaches in the game in Monty Williams. I love this team. People keep counting out Utah, and they count out Phoenix because they're not the Lakers and because they're not the Clippers. The Clippers have all this star power, but their team's nowhere close to this balanced. And the Lakers have tons of star power.
Same thing.
But it's the same thing. They can't shoot. And AD is hurt, Anthony Davis, and now LeBron's hurt. And
now Andre Drummond is hurt.
And so you've got these older players that are coming off. When did the bubble end? October?
Yeah.
The bubble ended in October. They got the smallest break in the history of professional sports. They went right back into a season, and now some of that wear and tear on an older team is showing. LeBron's human.
Yeah.
He just won a title. He didn't get the typical offseason, and now he's being asked, because Anthony Davis has been out, he's being asked, carry this team. It's hard to do. They get into a postseason, and look, they're still the Lakers, and they're still Anthony Davis and LeBron James, and they're going to be hell to beat. But in terms of balanced teams, unlike a year ago where the Lakers were this balanced team, this is not
They're not in anymore.
They're not. And there's 2, maybe 3 teams that are just flat better than them right now. If you took away some of the star power. And then that's before you talk about Denver, who's just a half game behind them. You just talked about Portland. The Mavericks started really slow. They're playing better as Kristaps Porzingis gets healthy. I think I stop there. The Spurs aren't good enough. The Grizzlies aren't good enough. No. The Warriors aren't good enough. But you're talking about a West that's a little deeper than it was a year ago. And I think for the Lakers, for the Clippers, the path to a title is much more difficult to navigate this year.
I don't know what to say to that.
I said it all. Is that right?
I guess.
All right,
yeah.
let's go to the East. Let's look at the Eastern Conference.
And also with the Lakers, I thought Dwight Howard, I thought that was a big loss. Because even though he's not like a crazy scoring player, I think his defense is still pretty good. And then they lost Danny Green, who, to be fair, he wasn't great in the playoffs. He's been pretty good for Philly, though.
He's a shooter.
Yeah.
On a team that needs shooters. They don't have that guy they can go to get shots. Their best shooter right now is LeBron or Kuzma.
I mean, now, literally their bench, it's probably Montrezl Harrell, Kyle Kuzma, Alex Caruso, and a bunch of dudes.
And that's what I'm saying. And playing against
Deep teams.
deep teams that didn't.
That second unit could crush you.
I'll be interested to see what Phoenix does in a playoff series because they've got so many guys that have never played in the playoffs. But Utah's a proven team, man. They've been in the playoffs, and they went out and made themselves better. All right, Eastern Conference standings as of I needed to update this. The scroll says as of 3:15, but it's actually as of 4:2. I'll update that. Brooklyn's the 1. Philadelphia's a half game behind them at 33-15. Then Milwaukee's the 3. Charlotte is the 4, one of the surprising teams in the NBA. The Heat and the Hawks tied for the 5th seed right now. New York is right there with Boston. All these teams are basically the same. Indiana's the 9. Chicago is the 10. Toronto's the 11 at 19-30. Washington, 17-30. They're the 12. Cleveland and Orlando half game behind Washington at 17-31, and then Detroit is the final seed. They're 14-34 as they get to the final 14, 15 games of the season. So I need to update that real quick because I need that to say as of 4-2. All right, Brooklyn, Philly, Milwaukee, probably the 3 teams in the East, right, that are contenders. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Especially Philly and Milwaukee.
You like them both better than Brooklyn?
Yeah.
What worries you about Brooklyn? Because I have something, but I'll
no
save
depth,
it.
No I mean, not a lot of – I mean, they're always hurt. Kyrie is a very weird dude. Durant, he's missed a bunch of time. Harden's Harden. I mean, he's still really good. Joe Harris, but there's no defense. There's a lot of injuries. And there's a lot that could go right, but there's a bunch that could go wrong.
Tell you what bothers me about the Brooklyn Nets. They went out and they added LaMarcus Aldridge, and I think he'll help them. They've added Blake Griffin. He'll help them. I don't think he's a giant difference maker. I think Aldridge is potentially a difference maker for this team. I'll tell you what bothers me is Kevin Durant's played 19 games.
That's it?
That's it. Kevin Durant's played 19 games. James Harden's played 41 games. The MVP of the Nets is James Harden.
Yeah.
It's a team that when you look at them now, you've got LaMarcus Aldridge, 13.6 points a game for the Spurs, going to play his first Nets game, I think, tonight. You got Blake Griffin giving you 11.5 a game. You've got Harden giving you 26 a game. Joe Harris giving you a little more than 14 points, shooting almost 50% from 3. You've got Kyrie Irving giving you 27.8 points a game and I think 5.9 assists. Elise Johnson's coming off the bench now, has played a couple of games, been forced to play. DeAndre Jordan having to play a ton. See if I can say this name. He used to play for the Thunder briefly. Timothé Luwawu-Cabarrot.
Yep.
How about that?
He was the guy we traded to the Bulls for like cash consideration.
You got Landry Shamet. I mean, they've got more depth than they get credit for, but what scares me about them is Kevin Durant's played just 19 games. And when you play in a playoff series, and if they got in one today as the 1 seed, they're barely ahead of Philly. So they're the 1 or the 2. Milwaukee is significant enough back to realistically say that Milwaukee is cemented in the 3. But you're talking about the Heat, the Hawks, the Knicks, the Celtics, one of those type of teams in the first round. And I think that's a game they can that's a series that they'll obviously win. Brooklyn can. But then you get into that second round where maybe you're playing Milwaukee in the second round. Kevin Durant hasn't played a lot of basketball.
Mm-mm.
And what if he can't do this night after night?
And who's going to guard Giannis?
On that team?
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about LaMarcus Aldridge.
And that's the thing. He's too slow.
You're talking about having to mix in Blake Griffin, who I don't think's that type of a defender.
Yeah, they don't have the defense. They have too many injuries.
Philly went out and pulling them up real quick. Philly made a couple of deals at the deadline. They got George Hill from the Thunder. It's Embiid. They've got Seth Curry shooting. They've got Danny Green. They've got the aforementioned Dwight Howard. Curry's giving them more than 15 a night. Danny Green's giving them 7 a night. You know about Joel Embiid. When he's healthy, he's
unreal.
He's a legitimate MVP candidate. Tobias Harris has been terrific this year. Almost 20 points a game. They went out and got George Hill, who's going to shoot. He's going to shoot it well for you. He's 12 points a game for them. Howard's coming off their bench. Mason Jones coming off their bench, giving them some minutes.
One of the best defensive players this year.
Yeah, they've got a lot of guys. Shake Milton giving them 12 points a game.
Lots of depth
out of SMU. Yeah, lots. It's a deep team.
And that's the thing. They have shooters. They've just got a lot.
Yeah, a Sixers-Bucks. If I'm Brooklyn, I really want this 1 seed, and you have to push for it because I don't want to play Philly or Milwaukee in the second round. I want to get as much games under Kevin Durant's belt without playing one of those two teams. I'd much rather, obviously, play Charlotte than one of those two teams in the second round. No question.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that's where it gets interesting. All right, so we've slipped up a little. Carson's schedule's been busy. My schedule's been busy, but we will be back with another edition of Chasing the Ring here in within this week. We're going to get it done this week. Carson, that's going to be our assignment to one another. We're going to get this done this week. Don't forget about our friends at Lammons Fine Jewelry. LammonsFineJewelry.com. Really, they're terrific. If you're in the market for a watch, costume jewelry, you're doing some, refurbishing some jewelry. Maybe you're getting engaged this spring. If you are, congratulations. Get in touch with our people at Lammons. Make sure that you tell Lammons that you heard about them on Chasing the Ring, that you heard about them on the Oxford Exxon podcast. We would appreciate that. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to us. Thanks for listening to the show. Enjoy Ole Miss baseball today. Ole Miss spring football will have coverage of that as well. Happy Easter to everybody out there. If you're traveling, be safe. And we'll talk to you next time on Chasing the Ring, presented by Lammons Fine Jewelry.